let's dive in. Today, we're taking a closer look at The Great Gatsby.
Ooh, Fitzgerald.
Yeah, the roaring 20s, those wild parties, all that jazz. But there's a lot more to it.
Oh, absolutely. People usually get the main themes.
Love, wealth, the American dream, that kind of thing.
Yeah, but Fitzgerald is really sneaky with how he criticizes those same ideas. He doesn't just talk about wealth, he shows how it messes people up.
Isolates them, you mean? Like they're trapped by it.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone's always focused on Gatsby and how much he wants Daisy.
But Daisy's not just some prize to be won. She's got her own complexities.
Exactly. She's totally shaped by the expectations of her world. Remember what she says early on? I've been everywhere and seen everything and done everything. Sophisticated. God, I'm sophisticated.
It's like she's trying to convince herself she's happy with all the money and parties.
That's Fitzgerald showing us the emptiness of that whole American dream thing. It's all a facade.
A performance, almost.
Yeah.
And speaking of facades, Fitzgerald uses Nick Carraway, the narrator, so cleverly. Right at the beginning, Nick tells us his dad's advice. Whenever you feel like criticizing anyone, he says, just remember that all the people in this world haven't had the advantages that you've had.
Oh, yeah, that sets us up to think Nick's going to be objective.
But he totally gets sucked in, too.
Yeah, like everyone else.
He even says about Gatsby, if personality is an unbroken series of successful gestures, then there was something gorgeous about him, some heightened sensitivity to the promises of life.
He sees that charisma, that charm that Gatsby has.
And those first impressions. Think about Nick's first glimpse of Gatsby.
So brief, so mysterious.
Gatsby's just this figure reaching out toward something. We don't even know what at that point.
Fitzgerald does that on purpose. It's what makes us want to keep reading.
The mystery of Gatsby. And then there's the geography of the novel.
Oh yeah, West Egg and East Egg, both loaded with money, but in such different ways.
West Egg, where Gatsby lives, it's all about showing off.
New money trying to fit in with the old money crowd over on East Egg.
And then, smack in the middle, you've got the Valley of Ashes.
Man, that place is bleak. It's like Fitzgerald saying, here's the price of all that excess.
And those giant eyes of Dr. T.J. Eckelberg staring down on everyone.
Creepy, right? It's like a moral judgment hanging over everything. Remember George Wilson calling them the eyes of God?
Like, even in all this materialism, there's still some sense of being watched.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then you meet Tom and Daisy Buchanan.
Oh, all that wealth and privilege, but there's so much tension between them.
Yeah, remember Daisy saying, I always watch for the longest day in the year and then miss it.
Like she's totally bored, even though she has everything.
Yeah.
And then that phone call during dinner.
Yeah, Tom just blatantly taking a call from his mistress.
Like he doesn't even care that Daisy and Jordan know.
And that brings us to Myrtle Wilson, Tom's mistress. Full of life, but trapped in a bad marriage with George, a man who represents the flip side of the American dream.
Their apartment is described as so cramped, stuffy, totally different from the mansions in West Egg.
Fitzgerald really wants us to see that contrast, the gap between the rich and everyone else.
Then there are Gatsby's parties, these massive, over-the-top affairs every weekend.
Like he's trying to buy his way into a world that doesn't really want him.
And all those rumors about him, where his money came from, who he really is, it's all so calculated, so mysterious.
Don't forget about that guy in the library, the one with the owl-eyed glasses.
The one who's shocked that Gatsby's books are real.
Yeah, like he expected them to be fake, just part of the show. It makes you wonder what else about Gatsby isn't what it seems.
So much to unpack.
And that's what people miss about Gatsby. He's got this whole persona, the millionaire, the Oxford guy, the war hero. But underneath, he's just so insecure.
Because it all boils down to getting Daisy back. Like he's built his life around it.
Exactly, and that's where the whole American dream thing gets twisted. Gatsby thinks if he's rich enough, if he can just change the past, then he can have Daisy and be happy. But it's all a fantasy.
It's like he's trying to buy love.
Right. Fitzgerald's saying the American dream isn't just about money, it's about wanting things you can't have. Like Gatsby saying, can't repeat the past, why, of course you can. He really thinks he can rewrite history.
It's kind of sad, actually. And Nick starts to see through it all. Like when Gatsby talks about Oxford.
Oh yeah, he practically chokes on the words.
Like it's a painful memory.
Yeah.
Then there's Meyer Wolfsheim.
Oh, Wolfsheim. He's the dark side of the American dream, all those shady dealings.
He's the one who tells us Gatsby's a bootlegger. And fix the World Series.
Boom! There goes Gatsby's perfect image. But why is he so obsessed with reinventing himself?
Daisy. It all goes back to Daisy, right? That love affair they had years ago, like Jordan tells us.
Yep. Daisy fell for Gatsby, but she had married Tom. Money and status,
And that green light Gatsby stares at from his mansion. It's more than just a light, isn't it?
It's everything Gatsby wants. Daisy, the past, a life he can't have. But it's also about the American dream itself, always just out of reach.
And when they finally meet again at Nick's house, so awkward. Like Gatsby's pushing something that isn't there anymore.
He literally knocks over a clock like he's trying to stop time.
But the past is the past. And as they start seeing each other again, they see the real person, not the fantasy.
Daisy's attracted to Gatsby, but she also sees his flaws. The shady stuff, the fact that he doesn't really belong in her world.
And Tom, he's not giving up without a fight. He wants to expose Gatsby for who he really is.
That confrontation at George Wilson's garage is intense. Tom just tears Gatsby down.
It's like old money versus new money. Tom sees Gatsby as a threat.
And Gatsby makes a huge mistake. He says Daisy never loved Tom.
Which forces her to make a choice.
Yeah.
And she chooses Tom. Safety and familiarity over love.
And that leads to Myrtle running into the road and Daisy in Gatsby's car.
She hits her. It's awful.
And Gatsby takes the blame, tries to protect Daisy, but it's a hopeless gesture.
Then George Wilson, he's lost it. Tom's been whispering in his ear.
He shoots Gatsby. It's tragic. All those parties, all that effort to win Daisy, and he dies alone.
Abandoned by everyone who pretended to be his friend. It really hits you how empty it all was.
And Gatsby's funeral, just Nick, his dad, and that owl-eyed guy. Everyone else is gone, like they never cared about him at all.
They just wanted what he could give them. Fitzgerald really nails that whole fake society thing. And then you find Gatsby's schedule from when he was a kid.
All those goals he wrote down, like practice elocution and how to attain poise.
He worked so hard to be somebody. But somewhere along the way, he lost himself.
He thought money and status would make him happy, but they destroyed him. It's incredible how Fitzgerald makes us feel for Gatsby, even though he made such bad choices.
He's a tragic figure, blinded by the American dream. And Nick, he's left to deal with the fallout.
Nick sees it all. And, he's not innocent. He helped Gatsby, even though he knew it wouldn't end well.
He even falls for Jordan, even though he knows she's dishonest. He got caught up in it, too.
He's totally conflicted, like when he says, I was within and without, simultaneously enchanted and repelled by the inexhaustible variety of life.
Yeah, he sees the beauty and the ugliness of it all. No wonder he decides to leave West Egg.
He can't handle the corruption anymore. He wants a simpler life.
But he's changed. Gatsby's story, everything he saw, it stayed with him.
It makes you wonder why this book still has such power, even after all these years.
I think it's because it's about more than just the Roaring Twenties. It's about wanting things you can't have, about how our desires can lead us down the wrong path. It's about human nature and love and loss.
Yeah, it's timeless. Plus, Fitzgerald's writing is just beautiful. We've talked about the obvious stuff, but there's so much more going on.
Like, what about the expectations on women back then? We talk about Daisy, but Jordan's a whole other story.
Right. She's independent, cynical, but it comes at a price. Like Nick says, she was incurably dishonest.
Yeah, she had to be to survive in that world. Like Fitzgerald's asking, can you really be independent if you have to lie all the time? They're all trapped in a way, aren't they? Daisy by her money, Jordan by her need to be in control, and Myrtle. Well, Myrtle's just stuck.
Myrtle's story is important. She gets lost sometimes in all the Gatsby and Daisy drama, but she's a victim too. She just wants something better.
And her death, it's a turning point. It shows what happens when the rich make careless choices. And nobody really pays the price except her.
It's really unfair. It shows how money protects people, even when they do terrible things.
And Nick, he's not just watching all this happen. He's part of it.
Oh, he's totally involved. He helps Gatsby and Daisy get together, even though he probably shouldn't. He even gets involved with Jordan, even though he knows she's not exactly honest.
He's drawn to it all, the same way Gatsby was. Like when he says, I was within and without, simultaneously enchanted and repelled by the inexhaustible variety of life.
Yeah, he sees both sides. So leaving West Egg, that was a big decision for him.
He couldn't take it anymore. He needed to get away from all the lies and the ugliness.
But it changes him, He can't just forget everything he saw.
That's what makes The Great Gatsby so powerful. It's not just a story, it's an experience.
And Fitzgerald makes it so real, so vivid. It makes you think about your own life, your own choices. What are you chasing? What's your green light?
And sometimes the things we want most are the things that will hurt us the most. Gatsby wanted Daisy so much, but it destroyed him.
We can learn from that. We have to be careful what we dream about. We can choose a different path, even if it's hard.
So as we finish up our deep dive into The Great Gatsby,
Mm.
think about that.
Yeah.
What are your dreams? Are they leading you in the right direction? What would you do differently from Gatsby?
Yeah, think about it. And maybe reread the book. You might see something new this time.
Until next time, keep those pages turning.